Well, Saki, I'm super excited to hear about yourself, about CuraVoice, your experience in the Yes program. And so, why don't we jump on in? Maybe tell me a little bit just about yourself. It looks like you play a lot of different roles in life right now. Also, give me a little bit of a short version of who you are with, student, founder, intern. What all are you up to?
Yeah, so one of the big things I'm working on right now is getting my doctorate of pharmacy. So I'm currently in my third year of pharmacy school. I'll be done graduating 2027. So I'm super excited about that. And apart from that, I do work at a community pharmacy down here and I work once a week. And just kind of, I love the interaction that I get to have with patients and talking to people that really one is something I enjoy, but two also is a lot of the inspiration behind our tool CuraVoice and just kind of those patient interactions. Another thing I do is I work as a mentor with CollegeWise and as a tutor with CollegeWise, and it's basically a national company that helps students get into college and provides them all the services they need to get there. So I work with a lot of high school students, which I also really enjoy that part of my job as well. And then, of course, I am the CEO and co-founder of CuraVoice, and CuraVoice is a platform for healthcare students where they can practice patient interactions. So one thing that I felt was really difficult during my training was that we learned a lot about what to say, but not how to say it to our patients. And so I just wanted to provide a safe space to students in order to do that. And so we, created this platform and basically students can talk to an AI patient and get feedback on their performance. And now we're expanding into workforce training as well.
The workforce training. What do you mean by that?
So basically, even once you're hired, right, like at a pharmacy or at a doctor's office, you still might not know how to explain certain things. So I know in pharmacy, one big thing is like insurance, for example. They don't teach you that in your pharmacy tech certifications. They don't teach you that in pharmacy school really in detail. So how do I explain to the patient why their copay is high, right? So we have training modules built in. We also are kind of like a verification layer for employers so that they can have the confidence of knowing, okay, this candidate actually knows like how to talk to patients and how to
Mm,
explain things. We're also trying to integrate like CE credits, continuing education, certifications, things like that, all just in one platform so people don't have to go looking for these things separately.
Nice. It's interesting to me how you say in school you learn, what to say, all the knowledge, but not really how to speak with patients. Tell me a little bit like what's the difference and the importance on the side of like learning how to speak with patients.
Yeah, definitely. I think one is just like the general empathy layer sometimes, right? Like when you work in pharmacy or healthcare in general, it's a very fast-paced environment. Like you really don't, because of the constraints placed on the system, you really don't get more than 5 to 10 minutes to talk to your patient sometimes, right? If even that, especially in pharmacy. So what you say matters because you have to figure it out really quickly. You don't have time to kind of keep explaining things. The other thing is we learn a lot of jargon. So we'll learn things like GLP-1 antagonist or GLP-1 agonist. And it's like, that's not terminology most average people would know or understand. So, how do I explain when somebody asks, how does my medication work in a simple way that makes sense to them? So that's really where Cura Voice comes in, and it basically forces you to say the things out loud and then get a graded score on it. So that way, by the time you go and do this in real life, you'll kind of remember, "Oh, okay, I'm not supposed to say it like this. The patient's going to understand it if I say it this way." So, yeah, that's pretty much where that comes in.
Absolutely love it. Thinking back, do you remember when you first realized like this problem and need? How did you identify it?
I think the idea came about my second year of pharmacy school, but I think the sentiment behind the idea I've always experienced, even myself as a patient. Obviously, at some point, I was not in pharmacy school. I was, you know, a teenager or a young adult going into doctor's offices. And there were a lot of times where I felt like the conversation was a little bit rushed. And again, I understand that has nothing to do with the doctor themselves and more so the system. But sometimes I felt like I wasn't quite understanding what they were telling me and that I had to look up a lot of things on my own when in reality it was pretty straightforward explanation. And so, yeah, I think just reflecting on my experiences as a patient and then thinking about, well, in pharmacy school, like, yes, we're kind of tested on these things, but we don't get a lot of opportunity to practice. That sort of bridge of realities is what created the tool for me.
Wow, so you actually experienced it, like I said, growing up in the doctor's offices, like not understanding and taking it upon yourself to go search and figure out what they were talking about. And then even from there afterwards, when you were going through schooling yourself, realizing like, oh, there isn't actually taught this human to human
Mhm.
connection. It's just, a lot of the facts is what we're being taught.
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit, where's Cura Voice today? Like what stage are you all in? Are there pilot users, paying customers? What does traction look like right now?
Yeah, so as far as our healthcare student interface, we have about 550 users right now, and they've completed thousands of voice sessions that we kind of use to continue training the model and making it even better. These students represent over 100 universities, so they're from all over the place, not even just the United States, like they're from other countries as well. And after doing user interviews with some of these people from other countries, they say that this is also applicable for them as well. So it's been really exciting to see kind of how far the scope of CuraVoice has reached. We also mostly have pharmacy students, but we also do have medical, nursing, and other allied health professions as well on our platform. And in terms of revenue, we with the students, we are not currently charging them because we're still in pilot. We still wanted to refine our model and make sure what they were getting was really worth their money. But with the workforce training, we actually do have a paid contract with an independent pharmacy who uses our software to train their pharmacy technicians. So that's been pretty exciting for us, and we're just continuing to expand in that direction as well.
Saki, that is super exciting. That is so, so exciting. When did you first start working on Cura Voice?
So I started working on it. What year was it? Like
Yeah.
2020, end of 2024, so like 2024
Okay.
December. And then, I kind of just entered it in like school pitch competitions, and I was taking this like AI course and we had to do a final project, so this was my final project for that class. And then my co-founder and I kind of realized, this is something we can expand even more, right? So we incorporated in July of 2025, and we've just kind of been working on it ever since.
Oh, exciting. Wow. So less than 2 years in, right? Thinking back to when it first started, like, did you picture that it would be growing so quickly? Like, where did you think you would be at this stage?
Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting it. I think 100%. I fully, even when we started this, I kind of thought this would be just an ed tech platform for healthcare students. And it very quickly, after talking to several mentors and like other people in the industry, we realized that this tool has so many more applications than that. And arguably fits even stronger niches that employers or employees have. So, the fact that we're doing workforce training and all of that, and that's where our first paid contract comes from, was definitely not in the cards, but I'm glad that it worked out the way it did.
Wow. So it sounds like that's an idea that came from some of your mentors or like support system.
Yeah, it actually really stemmed from when we exhibited at a conference. So we exhibited at the American Pharmacists Association conference this past March, and we were talking to a lot of students, obviously, but we also talked to a lot of pharmacy owners, a lot of practicing pharmacists, and, people that worked in hiring departments for pharmacies. And, they said, this is a really great tool, but I wish there was something like this for us, right? Like for us to use in practice, for us to perhaps even, help our employees train a little bit better somehow, right? And I realized, I have a lot of friends in tech, and they have technical interviews in tech, and I realize there's no such thing in, healthcare, right? Like it's just kind of, if you have a degree, they hope that you know what you're doing and they hope for the best, right? And so, I figured it'd be really cool as an application to see this as sort of that credentialing layer, as I mentioned. So, if you're about to hire someone, you can see, oh, their Cura Voice score was blah, 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 right? Like they would be really good at talking to patients, or maybe their CuraVoice score is higher in certain areas than other areas, right? So we're still doing user interviews exactly and trying to figure out like what people really want to see. But it seems like our general reception has been very positive to the idea, and a pivot that we did not fully think about in the beginning, but has sort of arisen as time went on.
Awesome. That's so great. So let's pivot just a little bit towards BizWorld and the Young Entrepreneur Success Program. Where did you first hear about it, and what made you decide to apply?
Yeah, so funny enough, I actually heard about it through somebody that was an alum of the summer cohort before me. And we actually were the two that took home the top prize, which was really full circle. But I met her at a different competition, and I was following her on LinkedIn, and she had posted about BizWorld. And so I was like, what is this program? This seems really cool. And so it was really nice to see a program that was specifically meant for young entrepreneurs. I was 21, 22 when this started. And so, I think there was a lot of confusion. I was still learning a lot of things. And I feel like just having a safe space to do that as a young person is really important. So I was just so glad to have come across BizWorld that way. As soon as I saw it, I applied. I somehow got in, and now we're here.
So great. Tell me more. You just said having like a safe space as a young person. Tell me more. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I think sometimes as a young entrepreneur, a lot of, big accelerators, big programs are not always built with a student in mind, right? I think we as students, one, we have not been in the workforce, so there's a lot of things we have to learn there, right? Two, I think it's just a learning curve. A lot of young entrepreneurs that I've talked to, and especially like college students, most of them actually don't always have like a business background, right? And so we have to learn these things like what is lifetime value, what is customer acquisition cost, like how do you calculate these things, right? So just being presented those things in a space where you also see other young people like yourself is really motivating because when you're doing accelerators and there's people that have had 10, 20, 30 years of work experience on you, right? Sometimes that can be a little bit intimidating unless you grew up in that kind of environment. So, yeah, I think that BizRoll definitely provides that. It provides you other young entrepreneurs to connect with and get inspiration from. The people I was in the cohort with were absolutely mind blowing. I mean, they were working on such crazy things, some of them in high school, which I could tell you I was not doing all that in high school for sure. But yeah, it was you meet inspiring people, you get a safe space. The team is just absolutely wonderful. You learn a lot, you get presented things in a very digestible manner. So I definitely appreciated that about this world.
Wonderful. Before starting the program, like going in, what were you most excited about? Like what intrigued you most?
I was just really excited to kind of learn from different perspectives, right? I knew that through BizWorld we would also get mentors, and they would connect us to other people if we wanted to speak to other people in the industry. And actually BizWorld was the first place that I got to speak to an ed tech founder. Almost all the founders I had spoken to were just like healthcare industry or tech industry, but not specifically ed tech. So yeah, I was really excited and thrilled about that aspect of it. And I'm definitely BizWorld delivered in that aspect. I got to meet so many cool people that were working on such wonderful things. So, yeah.
Nice, that's great. And then now afterwards, looking back, like was it different than your initial expectations? What do you think was maybe the most valuable piece to you?
I think the most valuable thing was definitely the community that they foster. Obviously, even within my cohort, I feel like I got to talk to a lot of people and really understand their journeys. I got to even interact with a lot of the presenters that we had who were also really wonderful at their individual crafts. I got to meet different mentors. I got to, have the opportunity to present in front of judges and all of that. So it's all kind of just an all-in-one experience, which I think is super valuable for students like myself.
So, Saki, I want to talk a little bit about demo day, and even before demo day, right? You, correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't initially get accepted, right? And then you got voted in through the wild card vote by your community. Like, take me back. What did it feel like when you didn't get in, and then when you found this opportunity and succeeded with this opportunity to advance?
I think when we didn't get in, I mean, obviously there is a small degree of disappointment, like, oh man, like there goes an opportunity. But I was still really grateful for the experience I had. And even if, I didn't get that chance to present at demo day, I think just having the mentor I did, having the connections I got through the program, that was good enough for me. And I was more than happy with that. And then I was like, you know what, there's still wild card, like we'll see what happens. And, my community just really came through for me. I put it out on all my social media. I told my parents, like, everybody knew that Osaki's doing this thing where we have to vote for her, right? And, I figured that I would definitely get a lot of votes because, I mean, people were just sending in so much support. But I really was not counting on being the absolute winner. I think for me, that experience of seeing people really rally for me was good enough in and of itself. Like, I was just so grateful to have that community. And then we ended up winning. I ended up pitching, and then somehow we ended up winning that too. So it was just a really crazy experience. Like there was a lot of whiplash. Like right when I thought, oh, like okay, like it's over. I'm grateful for the experience. It like kept going. So I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I'm just so thankful for everybody that helped me get to that point because that definitely would not have been possible without community support for sure.
Community support is such an important thing. And it's funny how you say you kind of had like whiplash of like, you really appreciated the program and the mentorship and everything you got. And then you thought it was over. And it's like, oh, nice. Now I really appreciate my community for helping me to get further. And it's like, oh my goodness. And now actually I'm one of the top funded companies.
Mhm.
Um, it's really exciting, and like I think it's a great time to mention that BizWorld, after young entrepreneurs get through the Yes program, or even other students get through other BizWorld programs, like we aim to continue to support our young entrepreneurs and alumni. Like just because the program is over, by no means does the support end. And so it's a big thing I like to state is that the BizWorld community is now your community as well.
Yes, definitely, and I felt that sense of support even after the program concluded, so I can attest to what you're saying firsthand.
So I saw a LinkedIn post of yours where you were sort of reliving this story. And you mentioned that BizWorld treats you like a founder, not a student founder. Tell me a little bit more about that. What's the difference?
When we say student founder, there is this kind of baseline assumption that, oh, this is almost just like a school project that a student is working on, right? And surely it'll be over either in a year or when they graduate, right? I think when we say there's a student founded startup, like most people assume, okay, there's kind of an expiration date to this startup, right? Versus, with BizWorld, they really push you to think, not just, oh, what am I going to do while I'm in school? No, like, what are you doing for the next 5 years? What are you doing for the next 10 years? I had my mentor, Eric, who was just absolutely wonderful, was really, really heavy on being like, listen, don't let the moss grow under your feet with this project. Like, you have to, doesn't matter that you're a student right now, like, you have to keep pushing, you have to keep building. And so, just getting that encouragement and, sometimes tough love, right? Like, it was really important and really necessary because I think that's what sort of helps differentiate this program from others. It's not just about, oh, what are you doing in the next year? Like, let's grow like crazy, but then what happens afterwards? No, this program really forces you to think, okay, long term, what are we doing with this? What are the connections I need to build in order to do this, right? The more holistic aspects of starting a business that not everybody necessarily talks about.
Yeah, wonderful. It's so impactful. You said like a small difference of being treated like a student founder, where it's a student project. There's an expiration date, where BizWorld is helping young entrepreneurs to be full-fledged entrepreneurs for the long term is really the direction that we're going. And the mentorship also. Is there any stories, if you think back, from the team or the mentors that really helped you, really stuck with you?
That's a good question. I feel like I've had nothing but positive interactions with the entire team. So I think it's really difficult to just narrow it down into one. I think definitely my weekly meetings with my mentor were a huge highlight for me. It's like every week. He had a very, tough love style. Like he would tell you how it was, right? And if something wasn't good, you would find out. If something was great, you would also find out, right? So I think just having someone with that raw honesty was super important in this journey. So I'm super grateful for everything he provided. Also with Patty and Aisha, which is I think the two people I probably had the most interaction with on the team, they were always just so willing to go above and beyond for us. I know there was one time in particular, this was right before our final business plan submission, that I just had a bunch of questions about, how I could improve, like what I could do. And there were some questions that weren't even relevant to the competition, but just, their past experience that I wanted to learn more about. And I think they stayed on with me after the call ended for like 25 minutes, 30 minutes. And it didn't feel like I was the one trying to rush so that they could go on about their day, but they were totally fine, happy to answer the question. And I feel like that's something you don't always get to see when you're doing, especially programs with big groups, because there's not always time for everyone, but they make the time. And I so genuinely appreciated that about them.
Wonderful. That's so great. Yeah, like we are absolutely here to help. And I mean, the mentorship and the internal team is what I consistently hear from the young entrepreneurs, what is like one of the best pieces of the entire experience. So, the Yes competition and Demo Day specifically are quite different than other classic pitch competitions. Walk us through a little bit about what did Demo Day look like, what happened, and how did sort of the funding come about?
One thing that does differentiate how this competition is that they do require you to sort of make your ask and explicitly state what are you going to do with that ask. I think in most pitch competitions, there's a set amount, like, oh, if you win, you're walking away with $5,000 or $10,000. But with this, it's you have no idea how much you might be walking away with. You just have to make your ask and hope for the best. And so we basically did a 3-minute pitch where we explained our company, you know, stated our ask, said why we wanted the money, and then we moved on to the next person. We did a Q&A, and then we moved on to the next person. And I think that having sort of the opportunity to sit and think about what am I going to do with these funds is really powerful because I think, again, with most competitions, you're getting a fixed amount, right? But with this, it's you pitch and you have to say, I want the money for XYZ. So that was really unique. I think we're also unique in that multiple winners did arise from it. While there was me and the other person who walked away with top funding, there were 3 other people that also won as well. And so I think that can be very encouraging for a young entrepreneur. Even your next 1,000, your next few hundred are really impactful when you're first starting out. So I can definitely appreciate that about this competition for sure. And then, even afterwards, there's been a lot of support. I think one really cool thing this program does is that they sort of hold you accountable by having these 6-month, 12-month check ins. And, while to some it may feel like an extra step, I think it's super critical because, yeah, you asked for this money. Now, what are you going to do with it? And that's kind of where that whole you're not just a student founder, you're a founder comes in because they don't treat it as, oh, it's a student, like if they lose 5K, they lose 5K, right? Like it's not that. Like they want you to tell them, "Hey, in 6 months I said I would do this and now I did it," right? So I think that's where that element of accountability and treating us like real founders actually comes in.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I like that you brought up this piece of there isn't just a first, second, third place outlined, right? It's
Mhm.
truly based off of who is pitching that day, like what are their asks. And then the judges decide that this year there were 5 different winners. Last year, actually, I think there were 5. The year before that, there was only 3. And like it changes based on that today. And so you can really come and take away from it just what you need and not thinking that it's just a classic contest of first, second, third, or bust. So it's really unique in that sense. And so, as you mentioned, Saki, you were the top funded company at Demo Day. And so, what does $10,000 in funding actually unlock for CuraVoice over the next 6 to 12 months?
So I think the number one thing for us is, infrastructure and having, a place to store all of our data and things like that. So I know I'm not someone that has a tech background, and so I was really surprised to learn that these things actually cost quite a bit of money. And so a good chunk of our costs will go to that as we're, getting more users onboarded and having more data to kind of train the model on. And the second thing really is just expansion. So going to conferences, having an opportunity to pitch this to decision makers that will eventually be buying our product. Um, Dedicating a small amount of those funds for marketing purposes as well, not just normal, "Oh, we're gonna put it into Instagram ads," but having people make cold calls and the time and energy that goes into that, sort of using those funds for that too. So, just holistically, infrastructure and maybe about 10-15% marketing is where this money is gonna end up going.
Exciting. I hope it'll help you guys to expand and grow even quicker than you already are. I mean, I'm blown away that in less than 2 years, like what you all have been capable of, and we're excited to be a part of it. Now, Saki, if let's say you were talking to a 17-year-old out there right now who has an idea, but they feel like they're too young to be taken seriously, what would you say to them?
I would say you are not too young. There are spaces where you will feel supported like BizWorld. It's really funny you say that because with my mentorship role at College Wise, I do talk about BizWorld to my students as well because they do also fit into that 16 to 22 age range. And, a lot of them have these wonderful, intelligent ideas. Some are just groundbreaking that someone could come up with that at that age. And so I would say, there are places you can go to learn more about these things and figure out how to really bring this idea to life, like such as BizWorld, right? They'll teach you about all the business stuff and all the business aspects. So, yeah, I think just finding your community, finding your spaces, and knowing that, there is honestly, I think in the startup world nowadays, like no such thing as too young. Most we look at people in YC and we look at these like top funding companies, they're ran by like very young early 20s, right? Like it's now become almost like a common norm. So definitely just have the faith in yourself, try new things. Even more than age, even if it's a different industry, like go for it, right? I do have a healthcare background, but no tech, no business, but here we are, right? So yeah, I think just trying and seeing what happens. And even if you fail, it's a learning experience, right? So to just go for it blindly, absolutely.
Go for it just blindly. Um, Even
Mhm.
if you fail, right? Fail is a subjective term, right? You're still
Exactly.
learning, you're still trying and moving forward. And what better place to quote unquote fail than in a very supportive environment surrounded by other young entrepreneurs that are all just trying, right? Everybody is
Yeah.
just trying. There isn't, like you said, these 40 and 50-year-olds with all this experience and know what they're doing. Everybody in the Yes program are all learning day by day and just trying their best. And we're here to support that.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. So, what about somebody that maybe, they're on the fence about joining BizWorld, right? They're just not sure if they should really apply. What might you say to them?
I would say, I mean, just in general in life, if you don't try, you'll never find out, right? So that's one thing. But, I think there is sort of this apprehension about maybe time commitment or if it's really worth it, right? If you're going to get the full value out of your time. And I think Bizworld does an amazing job of really telling us in advance exactly how much time we'll have to dedicate. They give us a pretty fair warning of, hey, you're going to have to dedicate X amount of hours per week, right? So I think just sort of paying attention to that and being cognizant of that, one, but also understanding that even in those, what, like 5 hours you might put in every week, like you're going to get value out of that. And another thing is these types of things are usually not free. There are a lot of paid accelerators that you have to go through in order to get this kind of expertise or coaching, consulting, like these things are very expensive. So the fact that they have created this resource for free for students to participate in and then even potentially earn money from is absolutely insane.
Love it. Yeah, it's really amazing that we can bring this program to the young entrepreneurs at no cost to them, right? Because I mean, there's a lot of costs and expenses associated with it. Easiest one to mention is that, every year handing out $30,000 in funding. And so we're super thankful for our amazing donors and sponsors. Like, why do you think that somebody out there, right, more donors, sponsors should be donating and supporting programs like Yes and BizWorld?
Accessibility is probably the really big thing, right? A lot of these donors and sponsors are likely entrepreneurs themselves, and they know exactly how much, upfront cost it takes, how much time it takes, and therefore lost income it takes, right? So I think, coming from that perspective and understanding, they realize that for someone, especially in the 16 to 22 age range, you're not going to have the resources for the most part to start something on your own and to not have to worry about certain things. So, yeah, I think that might probably be the biggest driver, and fairly so, that most young people don't have access to knowledge and to communities like this. And so to make something like this and make it for free is a really, really big deal. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's really all thanks to just the amazing support of a community. Once again, we're so thankful for it. Saki, thank you so much for sharing. I really, really appreciate your time. You have any last thoughts for us about Kira Voice or about the Bizworld program in general?
Not necessarily. I think that right about covers it. I'm just really grateful to have had this opportunity to, one, go through the program, but two, go through this journey of winning and being able to take our company forward, even more. And so I'm just very grateful for the entire team, very grateful for the mentors and the judges and just everybody that was involved. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be a part of this.